You're listening to The Donor Doctor Show, where your host, James Newberry, will help you improve the health of your fundraising. Now over to James.
Hey, this is The Donor Doctor, James Newberry, and I'm here with my son, Jonathan, who was interviewed in a previous podcast. And as he was leaving, he says, you know, we should have talked about crowdfunding, and he sure is right about that. It's a hot new source of funds for a lot of groups, not just charities, but cultural things. I guess two of the sources are Kickstarter's the biggest one, right? Mm-hmm. And then GoFundMe's pretty big too.
The two of them have put together, I looked it up, $3 billion. And Kickstarter's been around since 2009, and it's done $2 billion with almost a million. Was it 1.9, 2 million backers?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was 9.7 million backers on Kickstarter. Yeah, wow. Yeah, a lot of people. I know GoFundMe site. You remember in Ferguson that cop, Darren Wilson? They had a GoFundMe site for him, and people who are the victims of police issues or brutality, they have GoFundMe sites. So a lot of people, you know, there's all sorts of people, if you know you have health issues, whatever, that works for. I was interested in Kickstarter, and I you know, it's not mostly charities. It's actually not really charities, but it could work for many. It has a category for arts, crafts, film and video. You want to make a film?
Seems like they could easily make a charities category. I think that would be a very smart decision for them. Yeah, it was.
Since I do a podcast, I went into the journalism section, and how many? It was like 20 or 30 different...
usually the things last about a month, and there were, I think, 30 current ones going.
Well, there was a podcast. There was a woman named Tina Dupé who was raising $15,000 for a cult awareness podcast. She was raised in this group called Children of God. You've probably never heard of them.
No.
That's good. That's good you haven't heard of them. Anyway, she had made some headway, but she was maybe halfway there as I recall. The crowdfunding one I want to talk about, though, is Amanda Palmer, who also has a TED interview. You're familiar with TED, too.
TED Talks.
Yeah, TED Talks are great. It's an excellent way for you to learn about everything, really. I mean, there's hundreds of them.
Yeah, we have them at OU, at University of Oklahoma. Actually, our students would do it.
Oh, they're great. I mean, you can learn about everything. And she did one called The Art of the Ask. And she said there's really two problems people have. One is shy. They're shy. They feel like they're putting people out to ask them to participate. They feel like they're begging. And she has some good experience that she's used to help her in her career. After graduating from college, she couldn't get a job, so she dressed up as a wedding bride, and she painted herself white. You know, and she would ask for donations, and she'd give them, I think, flowers or something like that, or a stare or something like that. So she was kind of a performer, you could say, not quite a mime or something, but maybe like that. She said
an 8-foot bride is a performer.
Yes, it's definitely a performer. Yet some people didn't appreciate it and would say, get a job. And it bothered her at first because, this is her job. What do you mean?
Yeah.
But she said she'd get $60 on Wednesday and $90 on Friday. So it was always fascinating to see what that was like. Because I think it's a tough job to just stay in character for that long.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's a musician, and she sings in a band. It's kind of a cross of punk and cabaret, which is an unusual mix. And I listen to her music. She definitely has talent. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But I did listen to this one song by "Stand By Your Man," the old country ballad with a little punk sensibility, and it wasn't so bad to listen to. I enjoyed it. But I'm a big Amanda Palmer fan. Because of what she did. She was signed by a music label, but unfortunately she only sold 25,000 CDs. I mean, she didn't think it was that bad, but her music label dropped her.
Yeah.
Because she's a kind of artist that gets people a hardcore following, but maybe not a lot of people. And she's an expert at Facebook, and she tweets them, and she has a blog. So she has supporters all over the world, really. And she's couch surfing. You know what couch surfing is?
Yeah, couch surfing is kind of a new age hippie, I guess. Hipster thing where you I think there's websites for it. You can
just travel like an Airbnb for free.
Yeah, if you're in random country or random place, you can just look for a couch to sleep on.
Well, she that's what she does. She goes and couch surfs, and through her blog, she was in New Zealand with her band, and she needed a neti pot. I guess she didn't have a Zyrtec or something. You know what a neti pot is.
Yeah.
And some nurse came in, and so she has friends all over the world. Is what I'm trying to say through her social media. So what she did is when the label dropped her, she did a Kickstarter account and raised I think $1.2 million.
Yeah,
and it was just
broke the record for they said that's the most any.
Really? Yeah, I mean, I would think so. I mean, really, really, really impressive. A couple things that I like about her. She had a band. The band before her, she was talking about how a guy wouldn't pass the hat. He thought it was beneath him, or he was too embarrassed or too shy to do that. Yet, she says she doesn't feel bad asking for people for money or help, because she thinks it's a community. She's built a community. And, if you're an artist, it's not begging to ask somebody, or you're a charity. It's not. That's what you do. You're trying to find your community. People that care about the cause that you care about is really what you're trying to do. You're not begging. You're helping to solve a problem that they care about.
I think you have to get that across to people, that they're not begging. They're providing a service.
Well, I think so. I think people also are unusually sensitive to any kind of criticism. I've noticed this. I'll give you an example, like a dollar bill mailing in direct mail, for instance. You're always going to get a few people complain. You just can't be so sensitive. You can't wilt the first. If you make a hard, I'll give you an example with my mom. Went to church on Christmas Eve, and she thought that the reverend made too strong of pitch for money. Now, as a fundraiser, I didn't see anything wrong with it. It's an Episcopal church. You only get them twice a year. You got to hit them hard, Yeah. That's what I said. She didn't think it was funny. But I don't mind a hard pitch, but you're always going to get some flack for making a hard pitch or doing something like that. You always get that. But what I most admire is that a lot of people, like music, journalism, they're a lot harder nowadays. Newspapers, because of the internet, downloading for it really hurts songwriters and stuff like that. A lot of people would just, you just can't do it anymore. Well, she found another way. In fact, she used technology to make more money than she would have otherwise. And I think that's true for charities. A lot of them would say, well, they're kind of wedded. Well, we do one event, we mail six letters a year, we do this or that. They're not willing to try anything new. And that's their downfall.
I think it also, it's a new market, maybe.
Absolutely. It's a great way. We were talking about young people, although I don't think it's just young people.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not young people on these things, but maybe it's a group that you couldn't.
Well, I think her people probably were mostly young people, but
yeah. Well, I don't know actually. I think that there might be a lot of people who are stuck in the '90s who like her stuff.
Okay.
I don't know.
But she said she gets people sometimes come up to her and say, I downloaded your CD. Here's $10.
Yeah.
So she.
Well, I think for her, I don't think the record label, they kind of, it has a negative stigma in her area of music. So when she switched to something that it was just giving the money directly to her, like her
right.
They don't like giving money to a corporation. So when they was actually just giving it to her, they felt that they were actually they weren't being cheated. So they're more willing to give money, I think.
You're right. I mean, I think a lot of people are very static. I mean, I'm a big believer in the reciprocity principle that if you give somebody something of value, whether it be, money, maybe just a good feeling, that they're likely to give it back. I mean, now grocery stores, you see this all the time. You go to Costco and you're somebody giving away cheese, you're much more likely to buy that cheese or whatever it is. In fact, I read an article that you're 2,000% more likely.
Really?
Yeah, it was just a huge percentage. And there's a variety of reasons. One, well, you've tasted the product, so that would increase your likelihood. You feel a little bit guilty because they gave you something. And there's also somebody behind the counter there, and you're thinking, well, I want to help them out. I don't want them to see like they were bad.
Yeah.
They weren't doing their job. There's a variety of reasons. The reciprocity principle.
Humans are guilty?
Well, I think so. You don't necessarily need to charge people for everything, is what my point is. There are different ways to do things. Yes, you can sell CDs, but that's not the only way. We were talking earlier about how different religious institutions make money. Some pass a collection plate, most Christian churches. Mm-hmm. But synagogues, sometimes they charge tickets, a set amount, for I don't know, Yom Kippur or something like that. They're both valid ways to raise money.
Yeah.
Okay. There are pros and cons with each one. But the idea that everybody is going to cheat you if you don't charge them is just not true. There will be some, yes. But most of the time, take the dollar bill, for instance. That's usually the most successful house mailing for most charities, if they're willing to do it. Now, some people don't feel comfortable with it. They don't like the criticism. I mean, you do risk the post office will occasionally, very rarely, but somebody might steal that. So there are concerns like that. But generally, the reciprocity principle works. And it's not just religious people. You're speaking of guilt. I mean, that's more associated with religion. Yeah. But I doubt Amanda Palmer's fans are unusually religious. I mean, they're...
I somehow doubt, actually.
Exactly, but they see her as authentic. They see her as representing their values, and somebody who's a giver, somebody who is willing to bear all. And literally, because you remember in Berlin, she went to a German band and went stark naked. This is an unusual fundraising idea. And had people write in felt tip pen.
Yeah, they were signing her.
She made herself vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that is always successful, to really connect with people. I mean, if you wrote on somebody when they're naked, that's somebody you know well. I mean, you feel a connection to. So, I mean, an artist who is willing to do that is really...
How do you mass produce that, to...
Well, I don't... But I think she mass produces it in her authenticity, and that she does that in everything she does. There's a community of supporters around the world. It's very different. Around 20 years ago, the diabetes group, we were living in Virginia, had me send, it was something I was supposed to go to my neighbors and ask for money. Well, people don't know their neighbors anymore. Their neighbors are not necessarily the people that live next door. They're the people they know. By the way, if you're shy, I think that's one of the best things you can do is to raise funds for a group, diabetes, breast cancer, whatever. Through like a walkathon or something like that, where you have to ask people. And you'll find that most people will help you, some won't, but you'll get enough that it will give you confidence. There's little things like that.
No one's going to be mean to you.
Right. They're not. The most they're going to say is, "Oh, I'm a little pressed for money or not." Or I mean, there's different ways to approach people. Obviously, it's harder to. People are more uncomfortable asking in person than an email or something like that, then that's a more difficult one. Well, anyway, Jonathan, I appreciate you bringing up crowdfunding because it's such a great way to raise funds, even though the Kickstarter doesn't have a charity button per se.
You could always start one.
I think it should.
Maybe you could start a Kickstarter to start.
But I noticed a lot of the Kickstarter ones had things that could.
You could. You could easily put it in there.
And the GoFundMe certainly has a charitable.
A community tab.
Community tab, perhaps that's what it is. The GoFundMe definitely has a charitable, for people who have problems or things they want to solve. So anyway, thank you very much. Till next time, this is the Donor Doctor signing out.